This episode of Real Talk about real estate, realtors, and real stuff is going to be focused on what realtors should be doing to business plan for 2024. I mean, I know it's November right now, but we're in 2024. Like what you're doing now is for next year. And what the Laffins team does is we do a business plan, and a lot of agents do this, but we really sit down and focus on this every single year and try to look at what we did last year and figure out what we're going to do the next year and how we can do it better. So
yeah, I feel like in the past, a lot of agents, including myself, I created a unit goal, but I didn't have a lot of reason around that goal. It was maybe just a number I thought sounded good, or a number I thought, this sounds achievable. Let's go for it. And so this year we're doing something a little different, where we're kind of figuring out what we need to sell and what we want to sell. And in my head, I'm kind of trying to mesh the two together to make myself a reasonable and realistic goal.
Okay, so what you're saying though is instead of saying, I want to sell, I'll just use an example of 24 houses a year, it should be, I want to make $150,000 this year.
Or I need to.
And the reason why I need to is because I have looked at my budget and what my monthly
nut
is and decided that my monthly
nut
is, let's say, $10,000 a month.
Yeah.
So that is bare, and I'm just easy math. My brain has to work with easy math. Yeah. So that's $10,000 a month is $120,000 a year. And that's, let's just say, to make sure that you can pay your bills, maybe go on a vacation or two.
Yep.
Maybe put some money in a 401k.
Yep.
But then you also have your wildly important goals, your WIG, which is maybe buying investment property or adding more to your savings, all of those things. So if you first start with
Lamborghini.
Oh, yes, definitely. That's a good one.
Just kidding.
That's on my list.
Really?
No.
Aw. That'd be cool.
So, and then reverse engineer that.
Yeah.
So let's just say $120,000 a year.
Mm-hmm. Then you need to figure out your average GCI for each transaction. And if you're a brand new realtor, then you're going to have to ask somebody what number to use for you. But I would say if you've been in the business all last year, then you kind of have an idea of what your GCI is. And then you take 120,000 divided by your average commission to equal number of transactions you need that year.
Yeah. So if it's 7,500 is your average commission, then you would need to do 16 transactions to make 120,000.
But that, however, does not include paying your taxes.
Right.
So you're going to need another 20%, 25, 30, 120K
So now
a
we're
year,
up to 150.
Yep.
So 150
divided by 7,500 equals 20 a year.
So why don't you just bump it up to 24? 2 a month. I mean, no.
So, well, that's the point, right? Is okay, I need to sell 20 a year, but maybe including my wildly important goal, I want to sell 24 a year. And that's something to strive for, but it's also something that's somewhat realistic for you.
Right.
And then you have to figure out how you're going to do it.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just say the goal is 20. Are we going with 20 or 24?
Let's go 24.
24. 2 a month.
On average.
How do I do that?
How do you do that?
How do I sell 24 houses a year?
It is easy to do, easy not to do in a way. And as a brand new agent, it's actually really hard to do. But
before you say that anything, can I say I think the average agent across America sells 4 homes a year?
Yes. Yeah. I was going to say 5. Is it 4? It's either 4 or 5.
Okay, 5, whatever. It's not very many.
And I think that average is a little bit skewed because there's so many agents who don't sell any. People just have their license to have their license and don't do anything. But I mean,
we're talking to the people that want to make this an actual career,
full time,
do this full time, all the time.
Knowledge broker, professional,
showing houses until they keel over and die
at 7 p.m. when it's pitch black outside.
Okay, so it's 24 a year, 24 transactions, basically at $7,500 in the commission. So that's GCI, your gross
commission.
How do I do that?
So you need at least 5 lead pillars. So Tom Ferry talks about a chair. There's 4 legs on a chair. You need to have all 4 in order for the chair to work and stand. So what are your 4 lead pillars? And if you could get to a 5th one, that would be ideal as well in this market, because you're kind of having to go wider. You have to talk to more people to get to one transaction in this market, because we have less transactions overall. So some examples. Why don't you rattle off some of the lead pillar examples?
Well, my strongest lead pillar is past clients, but I've been doing this for over 20 something years. So that's a little bit different. I think what a newer agent, or even an agent that's, 5 years in, could equate that to as past clients and your sphere. My sphere too is a big source of mine, but yeah.
So sphere is friends, family, anyone you know.
And that's marketing to them. Hey, there's a lot of, there's isn't there still 600 realtors in Chico alone?
650 something. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a lot of us out there. I bet if you asked one person, do you know a realtor? And they'd probably rattle off 3 or 4.
Yeah.
My best friend. I have 4 best friends that are all realtors. So
that happens often.
So you have to make sure that they remember who you are.
Yeah.
You have to be out there. So that means you have to be calling them, texting them, checking in with them at least on a quarterly basis, if not more. Email.
Social media. In front of them on social media, for sure.
Doing videos on, that show you're in real estate.
Yeah. And I think also, to your point, talking about it and getting them comfortable with you, talking, getting them to see you as an agent, and that you're knowledgeable, and that they're going to choose you and feel okay coming to you saying, hey, I'm starting to think about buying a house. And, it takes a lot to get from your brand new agent to my friend or whoever. Maybe it's your outer circle is comfortable talking to you about that stuff.
Because your inner circle knows that maybe you don't know that
much. Not yet. Hopefully they would still give you a chance.
Yeah, but I think they would.
So you have your past clients, you have sphere of influence, you have referrals. So your past client and sphere who refer you business. So that's kind of the same bucket, and it's pillar, and you're marketing to those people. Whether or not you're asking referrals is kind of your prerogative. Some people feel comfortable doing that, some people don't. And then you have open houses, which is huge.
Oh, man. Do I need to tell a story?
Yeah, you do. Tell the story, Bran. The Laffins team gets to hear about it about once a quarter, so it's everyone else's turn.
Okay, before social media, this is back when they had this thing called a newspaper. I would do open houses every single weekend, and that is how I got a lot of my business. So I did as many as I could. Where else can you go where someone's going to come to you? Come to you. You don't even have to call them. They're coming to you, and they're interested in your product or what you do.
Yeah.
So to me, you cannot do enough open houses, even if you don't necessarily get somebody. And you don't want to get people, and you don't want to be salesy or anything like that. But the more they see your face out there, you do have the serial open housers, where people that just go to open house after open house after open house. So I just think that's a really good way to be in front of the public and have the conversations.
And then it makes you more comfortable having those conversations when your sphere outer circle does ask you something. You already know what to say because you've done it so much.
You get a lot of practice at open houses on what to do and what to say.
Yeah. So what day of the year did you do open houses?
Oh, I forgot that part. Christmas Eve.
Y'all.
I almost did Christmas Day, but I decided to take a day off.
No one on our team's allowed to complain about when they do an open house.
No, sorry.
Veterans Day, yes. 4th of July, hell yes.
Christmas Eve? I'm just kidding. It was Christmas Eve day, I guess, but still.
Hey, if Christmas Eve day is on a nice Saturday afternoon, serious buyers are still looking. It doesn't just go away,
Yeah, I mean, you never know. It was a slow day, to be honest with you, but...
You're putting the energy out there, though.
Exactly.
Okay, so open houses. And then here's the thing. We're going to talk about what to do within each pillar. But for open houses, you also need to have a way to, you need to know your scripts within the open houses. You need to be up on the market. You need to be prepared for, all the weird questions you're going to get about the market and, some person who comes in and just wants to shoot the shit. And then you need to have a follow-up plan with those people. How are you going to casually and respectfully ask for their phone number, exchange information, and then how are you going to follow up with them later? And I
think you always just have to give them an item of value, right? What are you going to, if you want to get their contact info so you can show them other houses, what are you going to give them in return?
Right.
So that is a
bottle of wine. Just kidding. Just kidding.
That would actually probably be a good thing.
Interesting.
But it's like, okay, well, there's this house, and this house. There's another house just like this down the street. I can show that to you as soon as I'm done here at 1:15. Or here, why don't you just do a drive-by on these 5 houses and let me know if there's any of them that you like.
Yeah.
Like, don't be super salesy. Just give them something. And then they're like, oh, that person was really nice. I have their card. I think I'm going to call them. Of course, ideally, you want to get their information. I'm not going down the sales line. I don't know. I just don't want to get too salesy here, but just be genuine and give them something that will be helpful to them.
Yeah.
And then they may come back to you.
Yeah. And if they can feel that you care about them and you're trying to actually help them find the house that's right for you, then they will work with you.
Yeah.
As long as they don't have an agent yet.
And if they're talking about a house that you think is a terrible house, I would almost tell them that. Not the one you're in at the open house, but if somebody wants to buy a house on a busy corner, you need to make sure that they realize, this house is less than the one that's not on the busy corner, so you think you're getting a deal, but you're going to have to deal with that too when you go to sell it. It's going to be an objection. So just know the freeway's right here or this is right there. Like, don't just try to sell them something. You have to give your professional opinion and then let them make the decision.
Yes, agreed. Okay, the next lead pillar would be door knocking. Yeah, so fun. So door knocking is interesting. It kind of went away during COVID times, and now it's back with a vengeance. And, if you live in a home, you've probably been knocked by a solar guy before.
Yes,
those guys work their booties off.
Right.
So we have a couple of agents on our team that love door knocking, and there's a really good strategy to, again, like Brandy was saying, is provide something of value. So when you door knock, give them an item of value, like inviting them to the open house of the house that's down the street from them. People love to go in and see their neighbor's home. That's a really easy way. Just invite them to the open house, give them some information. You can practice a script, asking if they want a market analysis on their home and things like that.
Yeah, I think that's the easiest door. If you're doing an open house in a neighborhood, just door knock it the day before and invite them.
And invite them, as easy as that. And then you get to see them a second time at the open house, hopefully. Sometimes people do a neighbors only open house, so you door knock and ask them to come before the open house actually starts. And I think that can be a good strategy because then those people are the neighbors.
You can also do a circle dial around them, around that neighborhood, and call them and invite them to the neighborhood or the open house, or just call them and tell them it's been listed.
Yeah. So that's another pillar, I think, these days. I don't think it's like a traditional lead pillar, but the circle dialing is... We have pretty accurate information for people these days. And like you said, if you're providing an item of value, they don't mind that you're calling them. And like I was thinking the other day, if someone called me and this person across the street and down 4 houses is on the market, and I'm not a realtor, and someone called me, the realtor, to tell me that your neighbor's house is on the market, it's listed for $525, we're having open houses this weekend, I would love that information.
Me too. I think most people would. I don't think we've ever really gotten people that were super rude on that type of a call.
Never.
They're like, oh, great, thank you. Oh, really? Why are they moving?
Yeah. Little nosy.
Yeah. So
I would ask. So you do that, and then you call again when it sells and tell them what it sold for. And then you can casually say, we had 3 offers on that property, so obviously there's more buyers for this neighborhood. Do you know of anybody, any other neighbors looking to sell, or have you guys had any thoughts of selling? And then be quiet.
What's another pillar? Let's move it along.
How
about online leads?
Oh yeah. Online
That's
leads.
huge.
Yeah. Yes. Zillow, Realtor, your websites.
If you have something like Google, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Online inquiries. So again, those come to you, but it's all in the follow-up. So you have to have a follow-up plan.
And you have to have that in your budget. Yeah. Because it's not cheap.
No kidding. Yeah.
Zillow's not cheap unless you're flex like we are. But there's other consequences to that.
Yeah.
And Google's, if you really do it right, Google's difficult. I mean, thank goodness we have Emily to figure out the Google stuff. Yeah. But just getting the phone to ring and how you make those Google leads come in is tricky.
Very tricky and it's always like fluid, like moving and testing and
It's always changing.
Always changing, yeah.
Technology is always changing. But I think dialing into that right now more than ever is super important to be able to figure that out if you are looking for online leads.
Yeah, so when you sit down to do your dials, it's like, well, who am I dialing? I'm dialing those online leads. I'm doing the follow-up around those. I'm following up with the people from the open house. I'm following up with anyone I door knocked. I'm following up with all my circle dials. You know, it's endless numbers to dial. You just got to sit down and do it, which is the hard part. Easy to do, easy not to do. It's kind of, I always say it's kind of like writing an essay. Once I get going, I don't mind it.
Right.
It's sitting down and starting that's hard, but then you get in the flow.
Even they say that on Peloton. When you get clipped into the bike, she's like, the hardest part is over. You're clipped in. Let's go.
Yep. All right. Well, those are some examples of lead pillars. You definitely want to figure out in your business plan, back to that, what are my 4 lead pillars? And then what am I going to do within each lead pillar to generate those leads?
Yeah.
It's the
I want
hardest
to make
part of
this much
business.
money. How am I going to make it? It's just like reverse engineering everything.
Yep.
So, and we have, if you're a local realtor and want to get a copy of what our business plan looks like, we're totally happy to share that with you. So
yeah, because then it helps you figure out how many hours of power dials you need to do, how many conversations you need to have, how many appointments. Yeah, to lead to one transaction.
Yeah.
So again, reverse engineering.
Because it's usually 40 to 50 conversations per transaction. So, and so you got to be out there figuring, how am I going to have all those conversations?
Yep. All right, cool. Well, hopefully that's helpful, and let us know if you have any questions.